The United States vetoes UN resolution calling for a Gaza ceasefire.
Must come with the release of the hostages.
An Israeli airstrike kills 7 Palestinians in southern Gaza.
وتم النقاش معه فيها بالتفصيل.
And Hezbollah's Naim Qassem says ceasefire depends on Israel's cooperation. It's 5 minutes to 8 and now you're watching Q News. We start with the latest developments in Gaza. The United States has vetoed a United Nations Security Council draft resolution demanding an immediate, unconditional ceasefire in Gaza, accusing members of rejecting compromise efforts. The draft resolution proposed by 10 non-permanent members sought a permanent ceasefire and a release of detainees. Despite 14 members voting in favor, the US, as a permanent member, blocked the measures, highlighting divisions within the Council over the conflict.
These two urgent goals are inextricably linked. This resolution.
The Palestinian presidency has condemned Israeli media reports about plans to establish a buffer zone in northern Gaza managed by foreign-backed contractors. It described the proposal as unacceptable and a violation of international law. A Palestinian presidential spokesperson stressed that humanitarian aid and Gaza's future must be overseen solely by the Palestinian Authority in coordination with UNRWA. The spokesperson reiterated President Mahmoud Abbas's demand for an immediate ceasefire, unhindered aid delivery, an Israeli withdrawal, and full Palestinian control. The presidency emphasized that lasting peace can only be achieved by ending the Israeli occupation and establishing an independent Palestinian state with East Jerusalem as its capital. Israeli forces have wounded 3 Palestinians with live bullets in Jenin as military aggression continues for a second day. The Palestinian Red Crescent Society has provided aid to the injured. Earlier, 4 civilians were also hurt by bullets and shrapnel during Israeli attacks in Jenin city and the refugee camp. An Israeli airstrike has killed 7 Palestinians in western Khan Yunis in southern Gaza. The airstrike targeted a group of people in Al-Mawasi, which is classified as a humanitarian zone. Medical sources confirmed that at least 1 girl was among the victims. For more analysis, we now move to Selma in our newsroom. Selma, to you.
Thank you, Rihim. And for more and further analysis of the U.S. vetoes in the UN resolution on the Gaza ceasefire, we're joined from Ramallah by the writer and political researcher Tamara Haddad. Welcome to Q News, Ms. Tamara. And first of all, I just want to ask you, how do you view the UN Security Council's failure to pass a ceasefire resolution for Gaza during today's session?
Greetings, everyone. Thank you for hosting me. In fact, this failure didn't at all come as a surprise to us. In fact, the formulation of the ceasefire or there should have been a ceasefire that is indefinite without any conditions, but it seemed that the United States was not on board with that. And so this is not at all a surprise to us. It is very evident that there is some kind of partnership between the United States and Israel regarding what is happening right now and unfolding in the Gaza Strip. It seems that the direct and indirect colonization of the Gaza Strip is something that had been plotted between the U.S. and Israel behind closed doors. There has at least to be some kind of international consensus expressed by 14 states in order to terminate the atrocities taking place in the Gaza Strip. And in fact, this actually happened. We have witnessed today that a lot of states in the world were starting or were trying to express their objection to the atrocities happening in Gaza Strip. But still, Israel, it seems, is just going on with achieving its investment and strategic and socioeconomic goals in Gaza Strip. And right now, there is a focus on the north of Gaza. And Netanyahu today expressed that Hamas has no control over the Gaza Strip. And this is, just Netanyahu coming out and trying to brag about his recent achievements. And it seems that a lot of Israeli settlers are going to be returned once more to the Abu Salim region and other regions. And right now, a lot other troops are being deployed in the Philadelphia region in order or inside of the depth of the Rafah zone. And right now, the resolution that was put before this International Security Council to reach a ceasefire, it actually showed us that there is a pivotal partnership between the United States and Israel. And, it seems that the Americans do not want to put an end to these horrendous massacres, and we can say for certain that even the consensus of the international community to terminate this war is nothing and does not weigh heavy before international organizations like the Security Council. Right now, the real face of the United States has appeared and its mask has dropped off. And, it seems that the war is going to be further prolonged. There actually might be some negotiation-based solutions, but I don't think these are still going to be fruitful at all.
Ms. Tamara, now as you're mentioning that there is a partnership, as you're saying, between Israel and the United States, why do you think this is actually happening against it's a humanitarian atrocity that's going on, and they insist on blocking the resolutions in the Security Council regarding a ceasefire in Gaza, despite the significant differences between the occupation and the Biden administration?
This is a very important question. They know up until this moment that the arms provided by the United States in fact, are utilized to terminate and demolish civilian infrastructure and to murder civilians. And there is a massacre taking place right now that we are witnessing the unfolding of in the Gaza Strip, which is a wide-scale starvation. And as well, there is terrible scarcity of water and food and medications as well. Right now, there is a lot of civilians, including children, that are suffering from negative effects of disease because of a lack of access to proper medications. In fact, there should have been some kind of discussion between the permanent and non-permanent member states of the Security Council in order to reach some kind of an formulation about a cease or a potential ceasefire. But what we have seen is that the veto was used in order just to propagate the massacres taking place in Gaza. And right now we can see that the Israelis just want to establish military rule over the...
Let me just interrupt you, and I want to ask you another question. Do you think the Biden administration will be satisfied with the efforts to achieve a ceasefire in Lebanon and leave Gaza to the next administration, do you think?
Yes, I believe this is what's going to happen. In fact, there were two subjects that, according to Trump statements, were expressed. Trump, in fact, said that he wants Netanyahu to terminate and resolve the two subjects of Lebanon and Gaza. And so it seems that Biden wants Trump to inherit a tumultuous subject, a subject relating to the ongoing war in Lebanon and Gaza. And so this is evident, in fact, and as well the United States are going to suffer a ton on an economic, or Israel is going to suffer a ton
and Ms. Tamara,
on an economic level.
As you know, as we want to just wrap up with you, I was interested to know, and how do you think the UN General Assembly can actually force Israel to implement a ceasefire in Gaza? How do you think?
First of all, the General Assembly of the United Nations just issues recommendations. Its decisions, recommendations are never binding. They are just provided or put before the Security Council in order for it to issue a draft resolution in which member states that are permanent and non-permanent participate. If there is a consensus, then the resolution can pass, but still, the predicament here is the veto use from the end of permanent member states of the United Nations or the Security Council. And so there is a pressing need to restructure the Security Council and its membership, because the current setup of the Security Council is not at all consistent with the principles of justice and with the administration of justice.
Thank you so much. That was the writer and political researcher Tamara Haddad. Thank you so much, Ms. Tamara, for your insights. And we are back to you again, Rihim.
Thank you, Selma, for that interview. We move on to the latest developments in Lebanon.
كل المستهدفين هن مدنيين. وضع شيء مرعب، شيء بخوف.
Hezbollah leader Naim Qassem has stated that Hezbollah is reviewing the US drafted ceasefire proposal and monitoring Israel's response as the halt to hostilities depends on Israeli willingness to cooperate. Qassem emphasized that while there is no quick guarantee for a ceasefire, Hezbollah is allowing the talks to proceed. His remarks come after US envoy Amos Hochstein announced plans to travel to Israel for further discussions. Israeli shelling targeted 3 homes in the town of Ibil el-Saqi, southern Lebanon's Marjayoun district, killing 1 person and injuring another. In a separate incident, the Ministry of Health confirmed that 5 people were killed in 2 Israeli airstrikes on the towns of Maraka and Qaliliya in Tyre. Former Lebanese President Michel Aoun hosted US envoy Amos Hochstein at his residence in Rabia for discussions on the ongoing ceasefire negotiations. Joined by US Ambassador to Lebanon, Lisa Johnson, Hochstein briefed Aoun on the progress of the talks and shared ideas aimed at safeguarding Lebanon's rights. The discussions also emphasized the critical role of the Lebanese army in maintaining stability post-ceasefire.
To try and reach a diplomatic resolution, because it's critical to getting people back to their homes on both sides.
The Lebanese Health Ministry has announced that the death toll from Israeli attacks on Lebanon climbed to over 3,500, with over 15,100 wounded since October 8th of last year. The latest figures came as Israeli raids killed 14 and injured 87 last night. Lebanon has been facing mounting violence as Israeli strikes intensify, targeting key towns amid ongoing diplomatic efforts led by US envoy Amos Hochstein.
Developments in Lebanon are dominated by escalating Israeli aggression and intensified diplomatic efforts following the visit of US envoy Amos Hochstein. Israeli forces have increased attacks on southern Lebanon, targeting towns such as Nabatea, Tyre, and Marjayoun. These strikes have caused extensive destruction of infrastructure. With Israel claiming to have destroyed Hezbollah's underground facilities, the Lebanese army reported the death of a soldier in an Israeli strike on a military vehicle near the border. The violence coincided with Hochstein's visit, during which the U.S. senior advisor for energy security sought to advance discussions on a potential ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah. In meetings with Speaker Nabih Berri and Prime Minister Najib Mikati, Hochstein emphasized the urgency of implementing United Nations Security Council Resolution 1701, which stipulates that the Lebanese army should be the sole armed force in the southern border area. Hochstein urged Lebanese leaders to strengthen national stability and pursue reforms critical to the country's security and prosperity. He also reaffirmed the United States' commitment to supporting Lebanon, which is contingent to decisive governmental action. During a press conference, Hochstein underscored the importance of a robust and enforceable ceasefire. He criticized previous failures to fully implement Resolution 1701 and called for enhanced international and regional cooperation to stabilize Lebanon. France has supported these efforts, with President Emmanuel Macron urging Israel to avoid further harm to Lebanese civilians and infrastructure. Macron also stressed the importance of expediting a resolution to the conflict and ensuring the safety of UNIFIL personnel, who play a pivotal role in monitoring border tensions. Caught between international mediation and escalating conflict, the intensifying violence and ongoing diplomatic efforts underscore Lebanon's fragile position.
Ukraine has launched UK-made Storm Shadow missiles into Russia for the first time. The strike follows reports of over 10,000 North Korean troops allegedly being deployed near Ukraine's border. This marks a significant escalation as both the UK and US officials recently approved the use of Storm Shadow and ATACMS missiles inside Russia. In response, Russia amended its nuclear doctrine, hinting at a potential nuclear retaliation to conventional strikes on its territories. President Joe Biden has approved the provision of anti-personnel landmines to Ukraine for the first time, marking another major policy shift. Two U.S. officials reported that these mines are expected to be used by Ukraine to strengthen defensive lines within its sovereign territory, not for offensive operations in Russia. Anti-personnel mines are prohibited under the 1997 Ottawa Treaty, signed and ratified by over 150 countries, including Ukraine. This decision comes just days after the U.S. authorized Ukraine to fire long-range missiles at targets in Russia.
She's been a partner and a public servant. She ran an inspiring campaign, and everyone got to see something that I learned early on to respect so much.
The U.S. Department of State's Consular Affairs has reported that the U.S. Embassy in Kyiv has received a warning of a potential significant air attack. The embassy will be closed, and U.S. citizens are advised to be prepared to shelter immediately in the event of an air alert. Several European embassies, including those in Spain and Italy, followed suit and suspended their activities due to the threat of a Russian strike. This comes a day after Ukraine used American-supplied ATACMS missiles to strike Russian territory. Moving to the tech world, the European Central Bank has warned about the potential for a bubble in stocks linked to artificial intelligence, which could collapse abruptly if investors' expectations are not met. This caution was part of the ECB's biannual financial stability review, which highlighted various risks, including ongoing conflicts, tariffs, and vulnerabilities within the banking system. The ECB emphasized the stock market, particularly in the United States, has become overly reliant on a small group of companies believed to be the main beneficiaries of the AI boom. Bitcoin soared to a record $94,000 after reports that Donald Trump's media company is in talks to acquire crypto trading platform Bucket. The move was sparking hopes for a pro-crypto stance under the incoming Trump administration. The cryptocurrency, which has doubled in the value of this year, was last trading at $92,104 during Asian hours. The deal, reportedly on all stock acquisitions, would link Trump Media's Truth Social platform with Bucket, with support from the owners of the NYSE Intercontinental Exchange. That brings us to the end of our news bulletin. Here's what we've been covering. United States vetoes UN resolutions calling for a Gaza ceasefire. An Israeli airstrike kills 7 Palestinians in southern Gaza. And Hezbollah's Naim Qassem says ceasefire depends on Israel's cooperation. This concludes our news bulletin for the hour. Don't forget to follow Q News on YouTube, Facebook, X, Instagram, and TikTok at Qnews EGY to stay informed. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more updates here on Q News.